Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is part 2 of the 6 limbs of surrender. This morning we did part 1, covering 2 of the 6. And today we'll do the second 2, and tomorrow we'll do the last 2. So I didn't write the verse again. So those of you who can hear. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam Rakshishyatiti vishvaso Goptritve vadanang tatha Atmanikshepa karpanye Shadbadha shadanagatihi. I feel like I'm in the forest of Naimisharanya here. Everybody is responding very nicely. So, just to review, Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam means the first 2 limbs of surrender are accepting what's favorable for devotional service and rejecting what's unfavorable. And now we're going to explore the third element, which is Rakshishyatiti Vishvaso, the conviction that Krishna will give all protection. And as before, we're going to we picked out a song from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Sharanagati anthology. And this songbook deals with this 6 limbs of surrender. And he has several songs about each one. So I picked one out. We'll just read the translation. First, the first verse. Ekona bujino Prabhu tomara charan akshop. Okay. Ekona bujino Prabhu tomara charan Ashoka bhoy amrita purna sarvakan. So he prays, now I have understood, O Lord, that your feet are eternally full of sweet nectar that dispels all sorrow and fear. Surrendering myself and all I possess unto those lotus feet, I have laid myself down submissively under their shelter. Your lotus feet, O Lord, will certainly shelter me. There are no other protectors in this world of birth and death. At last I know myself to be your eternal servant. Now the burden of my protection is exclusively yours. In my life of independence from you, I have experienced nothing but misery. But now, upon accepting those feet of yours, all my miseries have been cast far away. Desiring a place at your lotus feet, the goddess of fortune performed difficult austerities. Only after receiving your feet did Lord Shiva become auspicious. Upon obtaining your feet, Lord Brahma had his desires fulfilled. Your lotus feet are always held by the great sage Narada Muni within his heart. I now hold on my head those very same lotus feet, which drive away all fear, while I dance in great ecstasy, singing their glories. Your lotus feet will surely deliver Bhaktivinoda from the dangerous perils of this worldly journey. So this is a wonderful mood that he creates here. The basic principle of surrender is to give up the false ego centered on one's own body and its expansions, and identify oneself as an eternal servant of Krishna. As Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport to Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 22-100, we've studied this in the morning also, a devotee must be firmly convinced that Krishna will give him protection. No one else can actually give one protection, and being firmly convinced of this is called faith. This kind of faith is different from the faith of an impersonalist who wants to merge into the Brahman effulgence in order to benefit by cessation of repeated birth and death. A devotee wants to remain always in the Lord's service. In this way, Krishna is merciful to his devotee and gives him all protection from the dangers found on the path of devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada refers to faith here, and faith is actually a central principle throughout devotional service. But we can see, especially here, faith is not something only that we experience in devotional service or in bhakti yoga. As Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, there's faith in different modes of nature, right? In the 17th chapter. And people are acting on faith all the time. They simply have to. But what we were discussing this morning, how on the material plane, that faith is always betrayed. You end up being disappointed. At the beginning of the second canto, Shukadeva Goswami is speaking to Maharaj Pariksit, and he says, Deha patte kalatradi shatma sainyeshva sattvapi tesham bhamato nidadam pashyanapi napashyati. And there Prabhupada translates this very famous phrase, the fallible soldiers, asatsu, the body, the family, wife or the husband, etc., the money, all of these different things that we take shelter of to protect us from the dangers of this material world. Call it Atma Sainyeshu. They call Atma Sainyeshu, mean soldiers, the army that we feel will protect us. I spoke this morning about insurance. Insurance is based on fear. Multi-billion, I'm sure it's over $1 trillion industry of insurance, right? And you notice when the insurance companies, they try to get you to buy, they always try to scare you, right? What will happen if I die? What will happen to my child? And they show the guy playing with his child, you know, an older guy, maybe in his 50s, and he's got this. And he said, yes, that could be me. If I die, my children will be on the street. Oh my God, you know, here's the money, insurance, you know. Now I feel good. My anxiety is gone, right? So this is material life. The body is a big thing, right? Keep it fit, you know, eat health food, you know, very nice. And forget about, you know, the passage of time, old age, or dangers, you know, the terrorists. And the terrorism simply means the attempt to instill fear in you for some reason, to control you or to get some political thing or something like that. But it's a universal principle. So, rakshishati vishvaso, to have the full confidence that Krishna will protect in all circumstances is a tremendous boon to have, you know. And I don't know if when I told this, I told it yesterday, but I don't think it was in the open meeting. There's some incredible stories about how devotees of Srila Prabhupada in this movement showed this fearlessness. You probably haven't heard this story. You know, do you ever hear of Manidhar? Manidhar is this book distributor in Europe. He's been distributing books since the 70s, one of our godbrothers, you know. I think he's from Czechoslovakia. So this is one of the many Sankirtan stories circulating. So he's distributing, I think it was in some German city somewhere. Maybe it was during a marathon, I forget. All day in the city, and then it's getting to evening, and it's kind of dark, you know, and he's finishing up. And some fella comes out from the shadows with a gun. And says, in German, I guess, you know, give me all your money, you know. So Manidhar is so, what can I say, high. He's so ecstatic, he's so fired up from all of this. It didn't even faze him. And he took his finger, he stuck it in the gun. And he smiled at the guy without a pinch of fear. And he said, what are you going to do now? And the guy was so turned around, you know, that obviously he didn't shoot. I don't know if he sold him a book or not. That would really... But that was his, you know, he was able to go through that without this. And an even more dramatic instance took place. This is really famous. You may have heard this one. Back in, you would know, when was the war between India and Pakistan? Was it 72, 71? 71 or something, right? Around there, okay. So at that time, I think Brahmananda, who was one of the very famous early devotees, he, I think, had been preaching in Africa for some time, probably Kenya. But he was on his way to see Prabhupada, maybe in Bombay or Delhi, I forget. So the war is going on. So his flight from Nairobi to Delhi stops in Karachi or something. It stops in Pakistan, right? So he wasn't alone. He was with several other devotees, sannyas, you know. And they get off, and they're on a bus going from maybe to between airports. And suddenly the bus is stopped by a bunch of armed soldiers, you know. And what they were doing was taking, you know, this had been going on. They didn't know about it. they were taking Hindus off the buses and shooting them. That was happening. It was like horrible. So they saw them, you know, they had the robes on and they were chanting. So they took them and they put them on the side of the road and they're pointing their machine guns at him. So Brahmananda takes stock of the situation. He says, well, boys, this is it. And he put, get your bead bags. And he's standing there chanting, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama. And it was so unusual, or it disarmed, you know, I don't mean literally, but they didn't shoot. They recognized that this is something special, you know. And so they let him go, they put him on the bus. Now when Prabhupada understood that they had stopped in Pakistan, and so when they came into his presence, Brahmananda, this famous thing, Prabhupada just grabbed him, you know, and held on, gave him a huge hug for like a minute, you know. And of course, there were ecstatic tears coming from Brahmananda. But that was another instance of this fearlessness that can actually take place by surrender and being Krishna conscious. So that's what this is all about, Rakshasatiti Vishvaso. And one thing I recall, you know, just think of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. You know, now we like to think, oh, he's going out and playing, you know, with the cows and everything, and that's certainly true. It's all nectar. But don't forget, practically every day, there's some demon comes, right? There's some threat. And the coward boys, they know he's a wonderful boy, he's some special, they don't know he's God. And so they're really thinking there's danger there, right? And sometimes the danger is to them. Mostly the danger is to Krishna. But what about the forest fire? Remember the forest fire? After the Kaliya pastime, they stayed on the beach there, right? That was a whole traumatic instance. But then the forest fire came up. And they all called to Krishna, you're the only protector, please protect your devotees. And he swallows the forest fire. So even in Vrindavan Leela, this took place. What to speak when he left, you know, so many battles. And his dear devotees are often put into great danger. Just think of the Pandavas, right? How they went through so much before the battle. You know, the house of lack and the gambling arena, all of these different things. But as Queen Kunti prays, and we'll get to her prayer, special prayer also, she says, you never broke your promise. You made your promise you would protect us, and in spite of all of these horrible things that happened, you kept your word. And now, you know, the battle was won and so forth. So these are examples, both in modern examples, what to speak of what Prabhupada went to, the risks he took coming to America and preaching all the time. So this is a very important principle of surrender, to have confidence in Krishna's protection. Okay. So now I wanted to do something a little different, and that is sing a song. This is the famous Bhaja Hure Manashinanda Nandana song, but you see there's no more Bengali after the title. It's all in English. So I put it in English. You can play the tune? But you know the tune, right? Bhaja Hure Manashinanda. So just if you could start on D. D is my favorite note. And all we need is a kartal player. Do we have a good kartal player? One of you can play kartal? Who keeps a beat here? Come on. Simple beat. Okay. So this is a song, don't forget it, Abhaya Charananda Vindare, right? To the fearless, to take shelter of the fearless feet of Krishna. Now, of course, fearless in this particular instance means bestowing fearlessness. That's what fearless means. And of course, Prabhupada's name, original name, Abhay Charan. And when he was initiated, Abhay Charan Aravinda Das. You know. Okay, ready? Here we go. Give me this note, D. Bhajahu, excuse me. Oh, wretched, foolish mind, just give up all deceit and worship Krishna's fearless lotus feet. Oh, wretched, foolish mind, just give up all deceit and worship Krishna's fearless lotus feet. Don't waste this human life, stay close to devotees. Don't waste this human life, stay close to them. Are you repeating? Well, you're not going to the next line, right? Okay. Don't waste this human life, stay close to devotees. Don't waste this human life, and cross this worldly sea of miseries. My sleepless nights and days I've simply spent in vain, beset by heat and cold and wind and rain. While blindly serving cunning people steeped in sin, in search of fleeting pleasures of the skin, in search of fleeting pleasures of the skin. Oh, wretched, foolish mind, just give up all deceit and worship Krishna's fearless lotus feet. Don't waste this human life, stay close to devotees. Don't waste this human life, stay close to devotees. And cross this worldly sea of misery. What joy is there in wealth and youth or sons and kin, when I can see my life is tottering? Just like a drop of water on a lotus leaf, all mine just serve the feet of Lord Hari. Oh, wretched, foolish mind, just give up all deceit and worship Krishna's fearless lotus feet. Oh, foolish mind, just give up all deceit. Don't waste this human life, stay close to devotee. And cross this worldly sea of misery. I long to hear and chant about my Lord Hari, remember him and serve him constantly. And pray to him and worship him and serve his feet. Become his friend and give myself complete. Oh, wretched, foolish man, just give up all deceit and worship Krishna's fearless lotus feet. Don't waste this human life, stay close to devotee. And cross this worldly sea of misery. And cross this worldly sea of misery. Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, don't be shy. You can come forward here. Yeah. Thank you. So let's go back. This is actually a deep song. Srila Prabhupada loved this song. And you know he famously, whoop, there we go, name of that. Back this way. So the first idea, and this is not unique, it's often instructions to the mind. The famous Raghunath Das Goswami's Monak Shiksha, you know, really gets on the case of his mind. You should read it. So the idea is bhajahu re. This word re, I looked it up in Sanskrit. It often means chastisement. And so we need to see that we're not the mind, right? And sometimes we have to be very firm with the mind not to do this and to do this, to think this and go that way. This is part of yoga, right? Part of bhakti yoga. So he's instructing his mind, give up all deceit. It means give up all your crooked dealings and your, nonsense, and worship Krishna's fearless lotus feet. The idea is that that's where real security lies. The mind will take us birth after birth in the wrong direction, looking for safety and pleasure where there is none. And then this key instruction, don't waste human life. There's so many instructions. This is right there in the 11th canto, I think, the Uddhava Gita. So Prabhupada always quoted this verse. After many, many births, with great struggle, we've come to the human form of life. This is why understanding the principle of transmigration of the soul is so central. This is just one chapter in a very long book. We're now living. Don't think this is all in all. So we've come to this point, and like all forms of life, it's temporary, but it's unique in that it artadam, that it can give us the goal, the arta, this word artas, the real goal of the soul, if you will. But anityam, it's temporary, like all it's. So therefore, the key phrase, turnam yateta, don't waste time, immediately struggle. This word yateta means strive. Sometimes the sannyasis are called yati, because they're strivers, right? They're strict and they're always working. So, turnam yateta nabateta anumrityaya. This word anumrityavat means death is following you. It's over your shoulder. As long as you haven't died yet, as long as you have your senses about you have your wits about you, struggle for what? Nikshayasa, the ultimate good. Vishayakalasarvataksa, because in all these other forms of life, we've enjoyed different varieties of sense gratification. Punak punash charvita charvananam. Who knows what that means? Chewing the chewed. In this age, it's more like viewing the viewed, isn't it? It's the same. It's the same. That's really where most of the chewing goes on these days. But it's the same principle. So, Vishayakalasarva, been there, done that. This life, at least, dedicate to Nikshayasa. What is it, Nikshaya? Ultimate good means, ultimate happiness, eternal bliss, no birth and death. We hear about these things. We have to have faith that is real and strive for it. So that's what he's saying. Don't waste this human life. Stay close to devotees. By the way, the official pronunciation is actually devotees, not devotees. That's why I heard a little bit of, where did we get devotees? Did we get devotees? I think so. The devotees. So, the importance of sadhu sangha, of staying in the association of devotees. We discussed that this morning, of things to give up and things to accept. To accept the association of devotees, and to give up the association of non-devotees in the Upadeshamrita. Right? So important, essential. So it says, stay close to devotees, and in this way cross this worldly sea of misery. So here you get the Rakshashatiti Vishvaso, that Krishna's lotus feet, and we'll study this verse, this Samashvataye Padapala, are actually a boat that can take us across this dangerous sea. So now he gives a little description of his life as taking the role of a materialist. Sleepless nights I've simply spent in vain. Study it. I don't know how many, so many people, they can't sleep. They have to take a pill because the days are so agitated, they can't sleep. And in the morning, they can't wake up. So they have to take so much anxiety in this world. So he's saying, sleepless nights I've spent in vain, be said in heat and cold and wind and rain. These are some of the threefold miseries that are always threatening. Now, of course, it's unseasonably warm, right? But last year it was unseasonably cold, right? And somewhere there's these huge storms blowing in the south of this country, with this climate change. So this is material world. You never know what to expect. Ebola may come, right? Didn't we have an Ebola scare? The presidential campaign itself is one of the threefold miseries. We should give a special. Working hard, blindly serving cunning people steeped in sin. In other words, in order to live in this world, you have to get a job, and who are these people? You're serving them simply for the fleeting pleasures of the senses. He's taking stock. He's taking the role of a materialist. So then we have the chorus there. And then he has this famous line, what joy is there? And he's taking stock. Even family life, it's very fleeting. And an honest assessment is that our life is tottering like a drop on a lotus, right? The lotus has a little oil on it, so the drop doesn't get off if it falls from the water. But if there's a little breeze, the drop gets off. So that's what our life is like. At any moment, we can be finished. And surely we'll be finished at a few years. So therefore, O mind, don't stay absorbed in these ephemeral illusions. Serve the feet of Krishna, worship the feet of Krishna, and become absorbed. And then, so that's what he wants to give up. Now, what does he want to do? The 9 processes of devotional service. Hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, praying, worshiping, serving his feet, becoming his friend, and full surrender. So this is a wonderful song, meditation. Prabhupada has a beautiful commentary on it in the songbook. So our next study. Now this is, paradoxically, the great devotees, they sometimes realize that being in danger is positive, is a boon, because it increases their dependence on Krishna. And so we have this famous prayer from Queen Kunti. This is a dramatic scene in the 8th chapter, 1st canto. Sometimes pure devotees pray for danger because it increases the intensity of their meditation on Krishna and thus his presence, their sense of his presence. Thus Queen Kunti prays, I'll say, you say, Vibadak santutak shashvat Tatra tatra jagadguru Bhavato darshanam yaksyad Apunar bhavadarshanam. So Queen Kunti has just recounted some of the difficulties I mentioned earlier. The house of lack and the poison and all of the difficulties in the war itself, the battle of... So now she says, I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. So I don't know about you, but I can't pray like this. I have trouble, but I'm not at that level where I can pray for difficulties, calamities, But you can see the level of her devotion. Such an exalted devotee that it's counterintuitive. She's realizing that she was protected always by Krishna. She never forgot him, and the level of longing and desperate calling out was there with all those dangers. So now the battle is over. Krishna has been spending some time in Hastinapur, and he's headed back to Dwarka. And the understanding is they're probably not going to see him again. So she's in this final meeting. She utters this amazing prayer that she'll take the difficulties because we'll have your presence, and then ultimately we'll be beyond all misery. And I get liberation. So, and then later on, just to stay with Kunti, she prays, let all my attraction for my children, her exalted Pandavas and other family members, be cut off. Imam Chindi, right? And in the purport there, Prabhupada describes, well, these are devotees after all. And why should you, not have affection for devotees? But she's, taking the role of someone who is somewhat a materialist, I guess, thinking, well, yes, but it's mixed with her maternal affection. But now it's time to focus every bit of her affection and love on Krishna. So she asks Krishna to do it, meaning that she doesn't feel she can do it herself. So Krishna, you please cut it off. And then the next prayer, which to me is like the jewel amongst many jewels, like prayers. If you, maybe some of you know this prayer. Tvaime anannivishaya. Tvaime anannivishaya. How's it go? How's it go? Oh yes. Tvaime anannivishaya mati madhupate sakrit. Ratamun vahataradha. Gange vaughamudanvati. O Madhu's Lord, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of Thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to thee. This is a prayer that any of us can go to beautiful Kishore, Radha Kishore Kishori, and utter, you know. So this is the essence of devotion, to pray that all of our attention and our affection will be drawn to Krishna. So, then we go to... So now we're going to just contemplate a few very important verses describing this mood of taking shelter of Krishna and escaping from the dangers in this world, because it's a dangerous place. So this very famous verse from the 10th canto, chapter 14, which is the chapter where Brahma has his prayers, but this isn't one of the prayers, this is afterward. Shukadev is speaking to Parikshit. Samashitaye padapallava plavam Mahatpadam punya yasho morare Bhavam buddhi vatsapadam param padam 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 yad vipadam natesham. Now tell me, even if you don't know the meaning of the words, the beauty of the language has to be very touching. So the meaning is, for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint. Their goal is Parampadam, Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. So, actually, they're there already. Just like the idea here is that they take shelter of the boat of Krishna's lotus feet to go over that ocean, but then the ocean shrinks down to a little puddle. So you don't even need the boat. You're already there. The idea is that all of this fear and all of this anxiety and all of this material desire, it's actually like a great hallucination. It's a big dream. This is the way Krishna repeatedly describes it in his Uddhava Gita. Did you know, I don't know if I shared with this last time, it's been 2 years, maybe not. There's one verse that appears 5 times in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Did you know that? You know it's important, right? So one time, I have to be honest, half of it is there and the other half is a little different, but it's the same idea. So here's the meaning, and it's all about this dream, this world as a dream. Arte vidyamane pi sangsritir nanavartate dhyayato vishayan asya swapne nartagamo yatha. Very important. So arte vidyamane pi sangsritir. So sangsriti is samsara. Every morning we sing samsara dhavanala. It's just like a big burning fire, a forest fire, right? So as soon as you say samsara, it means the pains that come with birth, death, old age, and disease. That's the samsriti. So this verse says, in truth, in actuality, they're not real, these sufferings. You know, they're certainly not permanent, but they're real enough to us when they're happening, right? Just like in a dream, a nightmare. It's real when it's happening to you. So he says, Arte vidyamanapi sangsritir nanivartate. But those sufferings, samsriti does not cease as long as one is dhyayato vishayan. Does this sound familiar? 2nd chapter, Bhagavad Gita. As long as one is meditating and absorbed in the object of the senses. That keeps us in the dream. Just as swapne nartagamo yata, in the middle of a nightmare, the difficulties, the pains don't cease until what happens? You wake up, right? Wake up. So Srila Prabhupada also describes it like that. Now this is 5 times, twice in the Uddhava Gita. Kapila Dev says it. It's there in the 4th canto as well. I forget who speaks it. Very important understanding. So sometimes. Periodically over the years, I'm sure you remember, the question of the fall of the jiva came up. How did we ever come here? Why did we ever come here? Right? It's so, weren't we happy in the spiritual world? Right? So this is troubled devotees. So there's a history to it. I was deeply involved in this question back in the 90s and early 2000s. So at that time, I was going to LA, and Madhu Dvish former Swami he had an apartment there, and I would run into him. And it turns out that this question came up back in the 70s. In Australia, he was the GBC at that time, and some of the devotees, just reading Prabhupada's books, were arguing and confused and thinking, well, we must have come from the Brahma Jyoti and this and that. So he wrote to Prabhupada, and he asked him, can you write something that we can then circulate that will solve this issue? That will be your conclusive understanding of, the fall of the jiva, right? So he wrote it, and it's called the Crow and Tala letter. I'll explain that if you're interested. So what that means, so what he said there, and I'll just summarize, is that, and like the money quote is, formerly we were with Krishna in his lila or sport. But because of our free will, somehow or other, we developed a desire to compete with Krishna. We have free will. If there's no free will, there's no love. So there's always the chance that we could rebel. And we're the rebellious ones. So then we kind of fall asleep, and we start dreaming all of these material lives in the different bodies. And when we come back to Godhead, we wake up, it is as if only a split second passed, even as millions and millions of lifetimes of Brahma, the practically infinite malleability of time. So this idea of this world is no more real than a dream. And in the Yoga System tapes, Prabhupada speaking on the 6th canto, he talks about the daydream and the night dream. We know that when we have the night dream, in the middle of the dream, it can be a very pleasant dream also, right? But when we wake up, we say, oh, that was just a dream. You don't take it so seriously. And if it's a nightmare, you're really thankful that you woke up, right? So then you go about your daily life, and then the next night you have another dream. Right? And you completely forget about your day life. You're a different person. You may have, be in a different place. So many things happen. But we say, oh, this is real, and that's not. But this is just the same level of unreality. It's not me saying, nasato vidyate bhavo nabhavo vidyate sata. Right in the beginning of the 2nd chapter, right near the beginning, Krishna, of his teachings, he says, nasato vidyate bhava. It is known that the asat, the temporary, certainly everything is temporary, is not, there's no bhava, there's no ultimate existence for such a thing, right? And for the sat, the soul, there's no non-existence. We never go out of existence. We're as eternal as Krishna. Prabhupada said, So now, where are we going to place our attention? For millions of lives, we've been trying to project eternality and permanence on the impermanent. Think, right? That's the most amazing thing. Ahanyahani bhutani gachanti Himalaya. The question was asked of Yudhishthira by his father, Yamaraj. He didn't know it was his father then, but that is, what's the most amazing thing in this world? And the answer is, day after day, millions of human beings are being taken off to the abode of Yamaraj. It means they're dying. And those that are left are thinking, well, that's them, but I'm going to make a permanent situation here. Right? We're acting as if we're going to be permanently here. We're not actually, So anyway, that's to wake up from that dream and take shelter of this boat of Krishna's lotus feet. So Mahatpadam Punya Yasho Murari. Now Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, Mahatpadam has two meanings. It also means where the Mahatmas, at whose feet the Mahatmas stay. A lot of these words. So Vatsabadam Param Padam Padam Padam. So they're already there really in Param Padam. Those who take shelter of that boat of Krishna's lotus feet. And not for them is this place which is filled with danger. So this is exactly the spirit of Rakshashatiti Vishvaso. Taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet means, as we studied, to dive in fully to the mood of devotional service. Whenever you hear about lotus feet, it means service and surrender and worship to whoever's lotus feet you talk, whether the spiritual master or Krishna or anybody. So that's what this means, taking shelter of his lotus feet. Now there's another verse, there's a similar thing about the boat. There's a lot of boat analogies, but this one I just encountered in the 12th canto. It's very similar. And he says, Sangsara sindhum ati dustadam utti tirshor nanyak plavo bhagavatak purushottamasya lila kata rasanishevanam antarena pungso bhaved vivada dukkha davardi tasya. Now this is an unusual verse in that it uses the analogy of the forest fire and the analogy of the big ocean in the same verse. So for those people, conditioned souls, who are suffering the varied and extreme miseries in the forest fire of the material world, and who are therefore anxious to cross over the ocean of samsara sindhum atidustaram, which is very difficult to cross over, but they're eager, utitishar. There is no other boat, nanyak plavo, than Bhagavatak Purushottamaste Lila Katha Rasanishevanam. It means cultivating the taste and the appreciation for the narrations of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The pastimes include the name, form, and qualities. So we shouldn't neglect that. We should read Krishna book. We should not let a day pass when we don't contemplate at least one of Krishna's pastimes. And cultivating the taste for hearing that. The great devotees, they never want to stop. Lord Chaitanya, you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they would go all night. Oh, and then the sun rose and they had to perform their morning duties. Otherwise, they're going on. Kirtan and Katha is going on. So cultivating that taste, that's important. That's part of the boat. That is the boat. Going on. Now this is one that I long appreciated. This is a prayer uttered by Dhruva Maharaj after he gets darshan of Vishnu. You know the story of Dhruva. Dhruva is one of these great boy saints. And it's interesting because we can relate to Dhruva in the sense of the metamorphosis, if you will, or evolution of desire. As Krishna says, you can come to Krishna consciousness for any motivation. Anyone who comes to me out of distress, looking for money, or out of knowledge, or looking for knowledge or inquisitiveness, they're pious. You know, that's good. Chaturvadava sukritarojana. You know, but the best of all are those who really know what they're looking for. Gandhi, right? So Dhruva more or less went for artha. He was looking for a big kingdom, better than his father's. He wasn't a transcendentalist at first when he went out. He met, who did he meet? Narada Muni. Narada Muni, he has bhakti shakti. He has a shakti vesh, means that he gives just what each person needs, right? So he saw Dhruva. Now Dhruva, his very name means fixed. That's what the name is. So he was, this is right near the beginning of he was the grandson or great-grandson, a grandson of Swayambhuva Manu, I believe. So he's a Kshatriya, even though he's 5 years old. So he was insulted by his stepmother. I won't go into the whole story. So his mother, his stepmother told him, you'll have to, get God's blessing to, sit on the throne, or, take birth from my womb and then you can sit. So as he went to his real mother said, well, she's right, actually. You do have to search out God. And Prabhupada adds a little something, which I couldn't find in the Bhagavatam, where, his mother, so Dhruva asked, where can I find God? And mother said, well, I've heard that the great saints find him and go in the forest to find him. She's a simple woman. Suniti, virtuous, whereas his stepmother is Suruchi. She's got the looks, but she doesn't have the virtue. All these names mean a lot. So he goes out and he meets Narada, and Narada tries to convince him to stop. He tests him. He says, you're too young. I can help you, but go back, when you're older. Dhruva says, well, thank you very much, O great sage, but I'm going to go into the forest anyway. And so he gives him this means of yoga that's saturated with bhakti, right? He's chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He's chanting the holy name, worshiping a little rudimentary deity worship he's doing, meditating on the Lord in his heart, and at the same time performing these severe austerities, right? So after 6 months, he gets the darshan of the Lord because he's breathing. He's just living on breathing. He becomes a breatharian, and he's slowing down the breathing. And so the demigods, he was in training the use of universal breath. Prabhupada describes it that way. So they couldn't breathe either. And so they appeal Vishnu to do something, and so he comes down on Garuda and appears before Dhruva. So Dhruva is in ecstasy. He can't see him in his heart, and he opens his eyes, and there's Vishnu on Garuda. He falls down in ecstasy, he's crying, he's horripilating, and then he wants to offer prayers, but he's just a 5-year-old boy, so Vishnu touches him with the conch, and then he offers these beautiful prayers. This is one of them. The most famous one isn't in the Bhagavatam. Swaman Katartos Mibudang Niyache. But this one is very beautiful. So if you join me, Bhakti Mohupa Vahatam Trahime Pasango Bhuyad Ananta Mahatam Malashayanam Yenanja Sobanamaru Vasanam Bhavabdhim Neshe Bhavad Gunakatam Tapanamattaha. O Lord, kindly bless me with the association of your great pure-hearted devotees who constantly render you transcendental loving service, just as a wave-filled river constantly flows. By serving you as they do, I shall surely be able to cross the nascent ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing fire-like dangers. It will be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad to hear about your eternal transcendental qualities and pastimes. And this is really, the shelter of the devotees is that in their association you can hear pure vibrations about Krishna, beginning with kirtan. It's not a given. It's such a rare blessing. If you have some history and you realize how this movement grew by fits and starts at the beginning, but now, kirtan is flowing nicely in many parts of it. But to hear pure kirtan from sincere devotees is really a blessing. What to speak of, Krishna Katha, I took Leela Katha, Rasanishevanam. So here he's saying, this is why I'm so eager to have the association of the pure devotees, because I will hear these, pure vibrations, and this is, will keep me, I will easily cross over birth and death, the dangers of this world. So we should take this very seriously. Okay. Now here's a couple of more verses. These are some of my favorites. You may not be familiar with these. These are from the Stavamala. Very beautiful. And if you just join me. Vivrata Vivada. Wait a minute. I can do it. I forgot my little device here. You ready? Okay. Vivrata Vivada Badi Branti Vegada Gadi Balavati Bhavapure Majjato Me Vidure Ashadana Bandho He Kripa Kaumudindo Sakrit Akadavilambam Dehi Hastavalambam. I am drowning in the painful, fathomless whirlpool of repeated birth and death. O Lord, O friend of the shelterless, O effulgent moon of mercy, please, just once, quickly extend your hand to save me. Now this is a very nice name here. Some of you, you may have children, you want to name them. There's a nice name, Ashadana Ganabandho. Means friend of all those who have no shelter. Ashadana Ganabandho Das. We could have an initiation. Actually, there are names you can string together as many. But isn't that a wonderful name? I was always impressed by that particular word. Ashadana Ganabandho. Krishna is the friend of those who have no other shelter. So, if you want these verses, just let me know. I'll share them with you. And I think we have one final one. This one I put into poetry, again by Rupa Goswami. Okay, here we go. Manasaja Panijushti, Labda Patos Midushti. Timina Gahana Rupe, Hanta Sangsara Kupe. Ajita Nikada Laksha Hita Mundhara Daksham Upanaya Mama Haste Bhakti Rajum Namaste. Fallen in the deep and dark and dirty well of Maya, threatened by the snake of lust whose venom burns like fire, Helplessly I plead, O Lord, whose strength is ne'er in doubt. Place the rope of bhakti in my hands and pull me out. Now, there's very deep meaning here, because this is a very nice assessment. You notice how these verses, you paint a picture, a realistic picture of our situation. These are great devotees writing, but they're writing for us to, And then there's the way out, right? Either by the rope or by the boat, whatever it is. So now, this is a real. We're in this andakupa of the material world, the blind well. We're trapped here. So the only hope is by, and I like to use this word, intervention. We have to have an intervention from someone who's free and who can give us, like with a rope or anything, can take us out. So here's the direct plea to the Lord. All right, we're in the well, and we're hoping Krishna will, put that rope of bhakti down. So what do we have to do in order to get pulled out? We have to hold onto that rope, right? With all our strength. And that holding onto the rope is our practice of sadhana bhakti. That is where we come in. Otherwise, even Krishna can't save us. If we're determined to come here, to stay here, then, Krishna gives us the freedom. And Prabhupada even says, back to the fall of the jiva, because this question came up again and again. Devotees would write letters to Prabhupada, and he would explain. So one time, he said, Krishna tried to convince us not to come, In other words, it's like we had an idea, maybe we'd like to leave, and he said, no. I said, yeah, I think it would. No. And then we came anyway. You see what I'm saying? So Krishna wants us to come back more than we can know. This is such an important point. Krishna is like the sun, right? The sun is always giving out its rays and its heat. Now, where I live, you very rarely see a cloud. This is in San Diego. We have a huge drought going on there. So if you want to benefit from the sun, you have to go outside. You can't stay in your room, right? It's not the sun's fault if you're not getting enough sun. It's your fault. So so Krishna is always shining. In fact, everything is nothing but Krishna's shine. It's all his energy. The sun gives out the heat and light. Krishna gives out earth, water, fire, ether, might. He gives the material energies, and we're part of the spiritual energy. There's nothing but Krishna in existence. But we've forgotten that. So one of his energies, one of his, the most important, he loves us. He loves all of the living entities. Now you say, well, wait a minute, didn't he kill Hiranyakashipu and he, blasted all this? Yeah, but that's for his own good. Call it tough love, okay? That's really what it is. When we undergo problems in this world, it's the Father, arranging for us to not be complacent about staying in this world. It's not our home. We can't be happy here. So, but that love is unconditional. It means it doesn't matter. We may be in lower species. We may be demons, plants. But he still has that connection. Unlike any, human being or anything. That's unbreakable. But we can understand it or feel it when we, as human beings, purify our heart, purify our consciousness of all of the garbage, Cheto Dharpana Marjanam, that's been on our hearts since time immemorial and is preventing us from seeing ourself and seeing Krishna and understanding the relationship. So the whole process is one of purification, of revival of what we forgot. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi. Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte Kadaye Udoy. Some of you are familiar with this. This eternal perfection of Krishna Prema is not something that is artificial to bring from outside. Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte Kadaye. By chanting and hearing about Krishna and other practices, the heart becomes purified and that love naturally awakens. So we should have faith in that. And that may be the last of my verses here for the Raksha Shatiti. Now you notice that word Raksha is there. Nikala Raksha Hetum, the cause of universal protection is Krishna. So that's Raksha Shatiti Vishwasok. And that was the end of our process. So are there any questions or comments? I probably should have asked some before, but I got too involved in it. This particular element of surrender, which is confidence that Krishna will protect. It's a big thing. Because the reflex action, of mood, of being in the material world is to somehow ward off the miseries. This is a big thing, to counteract the miseries of this world. But as Prahlad Maharaj says in his prayers, dukkaushadam tadapi dukkam. Those counteractions, remedies for the misery, cause more misery. Yeah. Atadhyaham, all because we think we're something we're not. We're identifying with the body. So the only way to really wipe out or counteract all of the dangers and the difficulties is by taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. Okay, so we have another half hour, and we will explore number 4, which is Goptrit Vevanantata, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master. Now there seems to be, to me, I did some, a lot of study here, some overlap between the mood of Rakshasatiti Vishwaso and Goptrit Ve, in the sense that Goptrit Ve really means like this idea of maintainer, but almost like a child and a parent. But the parents also provide, as part of that maintenance, protection from danger. But they're focusing on Goptrit Ve, and guardian or master. So let's read Bhaktivinoda Thakur's song, one of his songs in this regard. All right. Dara putra nija deho kutumba palane Sarvada vyakula ami chinnu mane mane. So taking the role of a materialist, he says, within my mind I have always been anxious for the maintenance of my wife and children, my own body and relatives. How will I earn money? How will I acquire fame? How will I arrange the marriages of my sons and daughters? Now, through self-surrender, I have been relieved of all anxiety. O Lord, surely you will provide for the maintenance of your own household. Recognizing me as your own servant, you will certainly maintain me. While rendering devotional service unto you, I feel the greatest happiness. All events take place only by your will, O Lord. The deluded souls of this world declare, or the deluded soul of this world declares, I am the doer, but this is pure folly. What is a tiny soul actually able to do unless you act? The jiva can only desire to act, and unless you fulfill his desire by your own sweet will, he cannot do anything. Being free from all anxiety, I will humbly render service unto you. If any good or evil should occur while serving in your home, it will not be my responsibility. Bhaktivinoda thus completely renounces his own independence and engages in the exclusive service of your lotus feet with no other interest in life. So this is the mood of the devotee who feels completely dependent on the Lord. Now you can pick up on this mood perfectly in Srila Prabhupada's Markane Bhagavad Dharma song he wrote just after departing. They landed in Boston. That was the first stop in the long, after the long trip. And then he wrote there that, how am I going to, basically saying, how am I ever going to penetrate the modes of nature here? It's so thick. I feel helpless and hopeless, my Lord. I'm like a puppet in your hands. This is your mission. If you wanted to succeed, then please make my power of speaking able to enter their hearts, right? And make me dance, oh Lord, make me dance as you like. This is a perfect Sharanagati. Prabhupada just felt, whatever. He'd already been through that trip. He had 2 heart attacks. He had the dream with Krishna taking the boat. So he'd already seen Krishna take direct action in helping him and in taking charge. So that continued throughout the whole mission. He's a pure devotee. So that's the mood. It's not easy because in the conditioned state, we immediately try to have some kind of a strategy for our maintenance, our protection, right? Yoga and Shema. That's going to come up. Yoga and Shema that Krishna talks about. That's what we're talking about here. So let's explore a little more. And let's see. Sorry about that. So this is my own little summary. A big part of false ego is the sense that I am the master and controller of my sphere of influence. I will work hard, earn money, and maintain myself and my dependence. A surrendered devotee of Krishna understands that he, Krishna, is the supreme controller and owner of everything. Ishabhasam idam sarvam. As Srila Prabhupada says in his explanation of Goptrit Ve at Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 22:100, Shishi Kishore Kishori ki jai, Shri Gauranatai ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadraji ki jai. Quote, the devotee should accept Krishna as his supreme maintainer and master. He should not think that he has been protected by a demigod. He should depend only on Krishna, considering him the only protector. The devotee must be firmly convinced that within the three worlds, he has no protector or maintainer other than Krishna. And then I thought of the perfect example of Madhavendra Puri, who was like, at the supermost level of Goptvidve, not even begging. Madhavendra Puri was so surrendered that he wouldn't even beg any food. Quote from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Madhavendra Puri avoided begging. He was completely unattached and indifferent to material things. If, without his begging, someone offered him some food, he would eat. Otherwise, he would fast. From Madhya 4:123. So you know the story. Madhavendra Puri went to Vrindavan, and he's sitting under a tree and just chanting. And he's not begging, he's fasting. So Krishna comes personally, he didn't recognize him, with some pot of milk, and he made some excuse that he was sent there. And so Madhavendra accepted the milk, drank the milk, and he waited for the boy to come back. He said, I'll come back and get the pot. He never came back. So then Madhavendra says, oh, that was Krishna. I saw Krishna. It's going into ecstasy. So the whole thing happens, in dreams, right? So then he has a dream, and Krishna comes to him again. My deity has been buried there for a long time in the forest, because the Muslims would come and they'd threaten the temples, they would take the deities out. So there's Gopal deities. Anyway, the story goes on. But this theme of Krishna feeding Madhavendra, it happens again when he goes to Ramuna, right? Shirachor, the deity steals the pot of sweet rice or kheer, and for Madhavendra he gets that. So this is an extreme example, but we can see, again, Prabhupada's life. He came to America, he said, I didn't know what I was going to eat. Maybe, potatoes and rice, I don't know what. So he came helplessly, but somehow or other, it was a struggle, right? It didn't happen right away, and that's part of the whole surrender. Even though you don't get the immediate reciprocation from Krishna, you still have faith that in the end, Krishna will provide and protect. And just see what happens. Prabhupada, after a certain point, he's eating the rice, dal, and chapatis. I was reading Yamuna's book, extraordinary preparations she would prepare that he taught her how to make, So there's no problem with maintenance. And he often said, yes, I left I took sannyas, and that's an act of great dependence. That's the whole idea. Krishna will maintain. But now he has more, a family much larger taking care of him, like that. So, this is what Goptvidve is all about. Any questions, comments on these points? Yeah, go ahead. Do we have a mic for her? All right, you use this one, and then I'll use it.
Do we have to trust that Krishna will provide and not seek for it? Because if we ask Krishna saying that, okay, I'm in this situation, so please help me. So it seems that we don't have enough trust that Krishna will provide. But we also see devotees like how you mentioned the Gopas, they were praying to Krishna to protect in the face of the forest fire. Also Draupadi prayed. So, but then do we just implicitly trust that Krishna would give, or do we have to seek out asking Krishna to protect?
Yeah, it's a good question. First thing about the Gopas, in Krishna Lila, we're enjoined, that we shouldn't pray for anything material, right? We should only pray for pure devotion and love, and that's, nadanam najanam nasundarim, like that. But then we find, as you say, that when the fire came, they cried out to Krishna, right? For protection, right? So did that break their mood of pure devotion? No. I read about this, the acharyas say, in these extraordinary situations, the devotees express their dependence on Krishna. Pahi pahi mahi yogan deva deva jagatpate, right? Uttara is, asking for that. And the same thing with the Gopas and the Gopis there. The whole community was threatened, So also when the rains came, they cried out to Krishna. So that doesn't compromise their pure devotion. It's just, again, Krishna is engineering an event in which they can feel intense dependence on him. And it's just part of the whole relationship. Now, in our own case, it's important to pick up on the mood of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. First, he defines, well, you know, I was always trying for my own thing. I was trying to do it separately from you. But now I'm realizing, right, intellectually we realize whatever we may get on our own is still coming from Krishna, right? So we can strive, you know, we have to maintain ourselves, but we should know that the ability to do that is coming from Krishna, and we may not succeed. We may not succeed in our efforts. We may suddenly be poverty-stricken or whatever. But the whole key is, how do we take it? You know? There's so many people in this country. I mean, in San Diego, I mean, I've been there so long, I've seen changes of so many things, weather and everything. And now we have all these poor homeless people we didn't have before, living on the street in the richest country in the world. It's insane, you know. But the Goswamis were homeless, you know. Now, they were, you know, they were voluntarily homeless, but they still were homeless. But the consciousness is, you know, a trillion miles away. The idea is that it's all in how you see your experiences. There are going to be ups and downs in this material world. We may struggle very hard and it won't come to anything. So, or we something may fall into our laps, you know. But in each case, tatte nukampam susamikshimana. We should see it as the mercy of the Lord. If we have difficulties, take the mood of Kunti. Oh, you're so kind. It could have been so much worse. You know, but you're giving me a chance to pray to you even more intensely and remember you. And if something materially nice happens, oh, Krishna, you're so kind. You're giving me more facility to serve you. You see that in anything that happens then, it's a impetus for a positive relation to Krishna. Not, you know, with the kite of a dharma, is that, oh, I prayed and prayed. The Prabhupada gives an example in Germany during the war. So many wives, they sent their husbands or sons or parents or fathers, you know, to the war. And they prayed like anything. The mothers prayed, you know, for them to come back. Many of them didn't come back. So all they lost their faith. I prayed so hard. I was a good Christian my whole life, you know. This is not pure devotion. So in devotional service, we pray to Krishna not for the material things. We pray for the pure love. We pray for the things that lead us to pure love. Just like we had earlier, some of you missed some verses from the Namashtaka, praying for a taste for the holy name. He gives some sample names. And then at the last line he says, please increase my taste for you more and more. So many verses like that. So it's not that we don't pray to Krishna for the maintenance. We try to do what's needed, saying we're doing it in the spirit. This is your household. And Bhaktivinoda was a magistrate. He did work, you know. But he understood the whole thing is up to Krishna, whether it succeeds or not. And we're going to sing that song. Do we have, not now, but for Atmana Vedana, Manasadeha Gaya? Okay, so just, are you the one who plays and sings? There's one lady who sings. Okay, we'll do that, listen, but we should be ready for that. That's also a song that he wrote, very famous, you know, that everything my mind, my body, my home, everything is yours, Lord. Do with it what you like. So we're not, you know, going to take sannyas. We're not, you know, just going to give off, disregard our material responsibilities, but we're going to change the way that we see those things, so that whatever we do, we see it in relation to Krishna, and we're not disappointed when difficulties come. That's the basic principle of Bhagavad Gita. We don't get, you know, jubilant when something really good happens, because then, but the flip side is we're going to be so depressed when the bad thing happens. You stay equipoised and do your duty and deepen your relation to Krishna. Okay, so this is also an important aspect of this dependence, or that goptadve, maintenance. So in the 9th chapter of the Gita, after explaining why worshipping the demigods is self-defeating, Krishna tells Arjuna at 9:22. Now you remember that passage? He says, some worship me indirectly, right, by drinking the soma rasa and praying to go to heaven, and maybe they succeed to go to heaven, and they enjoy like anything. But then tetam bhuktva swarga lokam vishalam chine punye martya lokam vishanti evam tuhi dhamam hanupapanna gadakatam kama kama labante. That's the verse before this one. So what progress do you make? You worked very hard, you did all these sacrifices, you get to go to Indralok, and you enjoy godly delights for a long time, right? But then your piety is used up. Chine punya. It's like you put money in the bank and then you spend it on vacation, on a credit card. Well, if you don't go back to work, eventually it's going to pop out and say, sorry, you know, time's up. Got to leave the hotel. You got to go back from Hawaii back to Detroit and go back to work, right? So the material world is like Detroit. So he calls it marcha loca. What progress did you make? Nothing. Just going and coming. You just wasted a lot of time, right? But this is the next verse. Chant it with me. I'll say, you say. Ananyaschindayanto mam ye jana payupasate tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshemam bahamyaham. So by contrast, but those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Now, explanation. One of the meanings of yoga, as in yogakshema, is one's necessities. Here Krishna promises to personally provide what my devotees lack. In other words, their necessities, both material and spiritual. As a small child implicitly trusts his parents to protect him and provide for him, the fully surrendered devotee trusts that Krishna will fully protect and provide. This is Goptritve, you see? So that, yoga kshema, this is kshema means security, welfare. Yoga means what you need to live, you know? And most of the world is engaged in trying to get yoga kshema, yoga kshema. But here Krishna says, I will personally carry it, if you become my pure devotee. Okay, any questions, comments? We're coming up on 6:45, which we're going to end at 7. Okay. There's a couple more verses. These are beautiful verses from the Stotra Ratna. Stotra Ratna means jewel-like verses composed by Yamunacharya, the spiritual master of Ramanujacharya. Okay, let's see if we can chant this one. Oh, let me get a hurdy-gurdy going here. Okay. Pita tvam mata tvam dayatatanayas tvam priyasurit. Tvameva tvam mitram guradapi gatis chasi jagatam. Tvadiyas tvan brityas tava padijanas tvan gatiraham. Papanas chaivam sa tvaham apitavai vasmihi bhavaha. For the entire creation, O Lord, you are the Father, the Mother, beloved Son, the dear well-wisher, and the friend. You are the universal Guru, the ultimate refuge. And I also am yours, sustained by you, a member of your family. You alone are my shelter. I am your surrendered soul, and as such, I am your dependent. This is a perfect expression of this Goptritve mood, dependence on Krishna. All right, let's try one more. Okay, again by Yamunacharya, Stotra Ratna 57. This one is a little easier to chant, maybe. Tadaham tvadrate nanatavan madhrate tvam dayaniyavanacha vidinirmitam etadavvyayam Bhagavan palyamasmajihaya. O Lord, without you I have no guardian, and without me you have no fit recipient for your mercy. This is our unbreakable relationship. Therefore, please take complete charge of me, O Master, and never leave me. Nice, huh? If you're interested, I'll make these available. All right, that may be the end. That's the end of part 2. So any final comments or questions? on this specific aspect of surrender. Gopurdve. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll have kirtan till 7. Is there an arti going to happen at 7? I think so. No? Okay, there's 10 minutes. All right, so I'll give you a couple of more poems. You like, just to end on something really sweet. First one is Madoram Madoram Bapadasivibo Madoram Madoram Vadanam Madoram Madogandi Midusmita Metadaho Madoram 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 Madoram. Does anyone know this verse? Quoted in the CC 3 times. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form, sweet is still his face so fair, but his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. All right, I'm going to say it again. Try to visualize the beautiful form of Kishore. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form, sweet is still his face so fair, but his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. Wonderful verse. It's also, there's a deep meaning to it, because when we see the deity, we're not supposed to just immediately look at the face, actually. We're meant to look at the feet and go up and get a sense of the whole form. And then there's the face, but the most attractive element of that face is that smile. That mysterious smile, a little, without the teeth showing. Here's another one. Yeah. Uradi kutamudadi databangam, nabadadadakidano sadangam, yuvadi vidayadata madanatadangam, punamatayamana tatakitadangam. I should get the drum going. I have drums, you know. In the Nilaman, okay. Uradi kutamudadi databangam, nabadadadakidano sadangam, yuvadi vidayadata madanatadangam, punamatayamana tatakitadangam. His flute emanates entrancing sounds for the cowherd girls whose love abounds, for the clever cloud-complexioned lord who's dancing upon a Kalindi shore. We'll get these verses on the board, not now, but his flute emanates entrancing sounds for the cowherd girls whose love abounds, for the clever cloud-complexioned lord dancing upon a Kalindi shore. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. His flute emanates entrancing sounds for the cowherd girls whose love abounds, for the clever cloud-complexioned lord dancing upon a Kalindi shore. His lips are sweet, his smile is sweet, his lotus eyes and face are sweet, his heart is sweet, his name is sweet. The King of Sweet is sweet complete, the King of Sweet is sweet complete. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Yamalajana Banjana Mashataranjana Mahiganjana Ganalasabadan Pashupalupadandanam Apasatakandanam Adisundanam Hadavindakadan Vadagoba Vadujana Vidachita Pujanam Urukujana Namavenudaram Smanana Dakshanam Akalabalakshana Tanulakshanam Atidaksadaram. Now, everyone chant. Can you chant? You broke the two Yamaladun trees, you loved them to delight your pure devotees. You crushed the pride of the Kali, a snake, with your prancing dance in the Yamuna lake. Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Nitai Gauranga, 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 Nitai Gauranga. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Go Premanandi, Hare Hare. So that's just a little taste of our sing-along, or Song of Rama, whatever we call it. That'll be, I think, on Sunday. All glories to Prabhu.